Let's go, in fact, stay in Tel Aviv. Let's bring in Ehud Olmert. Welcome back to the programme, former Prime Minister of Israel, 2006 to 2009. Let me ask, Ehud, firstly, your reaction to what's happening today.
Well, you may want to know what my reaction is to what happened last night, right, in Iran. I think that this is a game changer, no question about it. The decision of President Trump to do what three other former presidents promised, that they will deny Iran from building or developing nuclear capacity to the extent that it will have an atomic bomb. And he is the first that actually took a very dramatic action using the enormous American power to accomplish it. So I think it deserves a great credit, and this is a game changer, no question about it. Now, what would be the ramifications of this remains to be seen. Number one, I'm not sure that I know yet what is the comprehensive outcome of this. Is all the fossil material left in the sites, or was it taken away so that they can still use it in order to try and build a bomb? What is the situation in these three sites, were they destroyed completely or not? But definitely what America did tonight is of enormous consequences and possible ramifications that may help change the balance in the Middle East.
You're one of those rare people, Ehud, in a position to give some verification and validation to what Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying since the 90s, because you'll have received those intelligence briefings as well as Prime Minister. When you listen to the rhetoric over the decades of how close, he said, Iran has been to creating a nuclear bomb and that intent being there, do you concur with that? Is that a constant threat that you believe has always been ever present?
We have to draw a distinction between the potential threat and the way to remove the threat. As far as the threat is concerned, I definitely share the opinion that if Iran will, at some day, will have a capacity to build an atomic bomb, there will be an immediate, imminent existential threat to the very existence of the State of Israel, because Iran says it in the most explicit manner day in and day out, that they think that Israel has to be destroyed, that there is no room for the existence of a Zionist entity in the Middle East, that we are not part of it and we should be destroyed. So had they possessed all the materials and being able to actually build an atomic bomb, that would have been a terrible threat, and therefore it was a potential threat, and I recognize it. And as Prime Minister, trust me, the State of Israel did many things that were not very pleasant to the Iranians. However, I never thought that Israel should be the leader of the effort to remove the nuclear sites. I never thought, particularly in the last few years, that we have the means in order to destroy these sites in Fordow and in Natanz and in Isfahan. I say time and again that this is something that should be done by America, and I think that the events prove that I was right. Israel didn't have the means, didn't have the bombs that were necessary, didn't have the planes that could reach out with these bombs from where we are, 2,000 kilometers into these sites. It had to be done by America, and it was done by America, and thank God it was done by America.
What would you advise? I know you will say they wouldn't take your advice, Ehud, but if you were a voice within the cabinet now, what would you advise the Israeli government to do, to stop, to end there? You know, there's some talk on the right of, we know, of regime change. What do you think?
I think that President Trump provided Israel with a unique opportunity to close this military effort, the glorious, a successful, outstanding military effort that we started on the 13th of June with an obvious air of victory for us and for our allies. This is the time to do it. If we will continue to try, as we did in Gaza, to stretch and stretch and stretch and carry on forever, we are going to lose that which we have gained in the last few days. I think that Iran is dramatically weakened, largely because of what happened last night, but also because of the last 9 days of the outstanding Israeli military operation, particularly the operation of the Israeli Air Force, but not only the Air Force, also the Israeli intelligence, the Israeli cyber, which succeeded to penetrate through everything and to overcome all the air defense systems of the Iranians and to control the skies of Tehran. This is unbelievable considering the distance between Israel and Tehran. This is absolutely a great achievement, and I think that this gives Israel an opportunity to end this with a very obvious realization of success and victory, and also to take this opportunity to end the war in Gaza. So had I been in a position to decide for the sake of Israel, that's what I would have done. Unfortunately, I'm not in that position.
Which raises 2 points. One is when we listened to Israel Katz this week, Defense Minister talking about cutting off the head of the Supreme Leader, calling for his death after the attack on a hospital in the south of Israel, and justifying it as essentially a preemptive, given the rhetoric of the Ayatollah in the past. Would you categorically be fundamentally against that? Where do you stand on the idea of a regime change?
Look, I think that this is childish and immature, and it represents this rhetoric of arrogance which characterizes the attitude and the spirit of this government. I would expect that after this, as I said, outstanding success of the military operation that we started, the attack that we started on the 13th of June, that we will lose some of this unnecessary, aggressive, militant rhetoric of arrogance. We don't need it. When you are strong, when you are powerful, when you control the skies of Iran, when you intercept so successfully so many of the ballistic missiles, not all of them, as you know, and you just have shown the wreckage and the debris in various parts of the state of Israel. It's not a simple experience that we are going through, but altogether, I think that we are doing very successfully, very well, very powerfully. Why do you need all this childish talk of revenge, of elimination, the leaders of the other side? You can afford yourself to be more restrained and more serious. And I expect the government of Israel and certainly the senior ministers of the Israeli government to be somewhat more serious.
I was talking, Ehud, to a number of people in the last few days, including Gideon Levy, who you will know well, of Haaretz, and his point was that he sees Iran as a sideshow, that the bigger question has to be ultimately how to deal with Gaza, the idea of a two-state solution or not, and to which you have, last time you were on my programme speaking to me, you described it as a genocide going on there. Now you've just listened to Catherine Norris-Trent's polling to say Benjamin Netanyahu's polling is going through the roof right now as a result of this. What do you make of the sense of the pressure on the Prime Minister and the reasons that he's doing this?
Number one, I never said, never, ever uttered the word genocide from my lips.
No, you're quite right. You said a war crime, but you didn't say genocide. You're very right to correct me there.
I say that the war crimes in a very specific context of the continuation of the war in Gaza. So we have to be very accurate because this is very sensitive. And I never accused Israel of committing genocide or wanting to commit genocide, number one. Number two, I'm very, very upset. Is the fact that war in Gaza continues, that there is no policy, no objective, no goal, no plan, no vision, no horizon for the day after. And this is largely a result of the fact that the Prime Minister is captive of this group of messianic ministers that seems to control him completely. So this was true up until last night. I thought that as a result of what appears to have been a very significant success for the Israeli attack in Iran, which was unavoidable and acceptable, and largely supported by everyone in Israel, and also the very impressive cooperation between Israel and the United States, which is also a great achievement that has to give credit to the Israeli government, to the Prime Minister of Israel. And you know very well that I'm not his great supporter. I am his critique, and I don't hesitate to criticize him.
It takes me to the point.
Given all this, I would have expected them to have now the power and the wisdom to put an end to what happens in Gaza. The fact that they don't do it is a very negative signal for all kinds of ideas that may characterize the policies of Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, which Netanyahu seems to be captive of instead of leading.
No, a good point to reiterate, because I do remember very clearly last time you were on the programme, you did talk about a war crime, and I asked you explicitly about genocide, and you did say it is categorically not genocide, but a war crime, and those two are different things. One clearly with genocide has intent, which Israel denies and is being looked at, a case brought by South Africa in the International Court of Justice. Now, to a point on when you were Prime Minister, and it would have been, George W. Bush in power in the US, these extraordinary scenes we're seeing now, this unprecedented moment, were you having any similar conversation all those years ago, 2006 to 2009, calling from US action, coordination, either through the CIA or with George Bush? Give us a sense of the ongoing dialogue between Israel and the US over Iran.
Obviously, I don't know how this is done with President Trump, between him and Netanyahu, and I don't know what type of personal relations they do have with them. There are all kinds of possible interpretations. I can say that at the time that George W. Bush was President and I was Prime Minister, we had very close, intimate relations. And we had many discussions. It's not a secret anymore that when we had the threat of the atomic reactor in Syria, which was the greatest imminent, immediate threat to the existence of Israel ever, because this was an atomic reactor which was almost completed at the time that we found out about it, and it was in a distance of a few hundred kilometers from Israel. And I had many discussions with President Bush. Many of my military guys and the head of Mossad and the head of the military intelligence, of course, negotiated and dealt with and talked on a daily basis with the CIA guys. And we had a very intimate cooperation. However, I did ask the president to consider the options of America destroying the atomic reactor in Syria, because I thought that it will be a very important signal, not just to Syria, but to the entire Middle East and to Iran as well. And the president, and I think at that time the Secretary of Defense, Bob Gates, decided not to do it. But I can reassure you that in spite of his refusal to actually do it by American planes, we were assisted in a very significant manner by the United States. We had many talks, many meetings, many telephone conversations. And I think that the relations at that time was extremely, extremely close between Israel and America.
Ehud, always.
And I have to also mention that the then Vice President of America, Dick Cheney, was also very much into everything that we did, and he was a remarkable person in this context, him and George W.
On a purely operational level, a final thought from you is just rounding as we started with your reaction to what has happened in the last few hours. When you were seeing this detail emerge, when we were listening to Pete Hegseth and the military commander, were you like us kind of open-mouthed looking at the extent, the scale of this operation and the fact that Iran hadn't fired back?
Can Iran fight back against America when all these stealth planes are coming with these bombs? I think it was not actually expected from their point of view, but that doesn't mean that they may not use the weapons that they have and the missiles, the short range and the long range missiles that they have, to try and attack American bases in the close vicinity of Iran. They have bases in Qatar and in some other, the Emirates around Iran. So it remains to be seen what will be the reaction of Iran. I think it's too early. And I suggest, by the way, that none of us will take Iran for granted. Iran is not Hezbollah. Iran is not Hamas. Iran is a country of over 90 million people, a very strong, a very well-developed technologically, a very strong and powerful economically, with the reserves of oil and gas, which maybe are the largest in the world. And we shouldn't take Iran for granted. Iran is not destroyed. Iran has not been removed from the landscape of our lives. It's there. And I think that they will be smart to understand the limits of their power and try and overcome the sense of humiliation and despair that they probably feel now, because as much as they are strong and capable and rich, they can't cope with America. Yet at the same time, I think that the ultimate way to deal with Iran is to reach an agreement that will have enough supervising powers in order to make sure that Iran will not try to restore the nuclear plan again into the agenda. And perhaps there will be a change in the attitude. They will find out that trying to upset the balance in the Middle East is maybe too costly even for them. But
Ehud,
let's not humiliate them beyond what was essential and needed for the target that we had, which is to remove their nuclear program from the agenda of our lives.
Very good to hear your thoughts this evening, Ehud. Thank you. Ehud Olmert, former Prime Minister of Israel, 2006 to 2009. Good to talk to you on France 24. Let's